Rice is a staple food for a large proportion of the world's population, particularly in Asia. Rice is grown in many different ways, but one of the most common methods is through traditional village farming practices. These practices have been developed over thousands of years and are still used in many parts of the world today. In this article, we will explore how villages make rice, starting from the preparation of the fields to the harvest and processing of the rice grains. We will also look at the role of rice in the culture and economy of many rural communities. Preparation of the fields. The first step in the process of making rice is preparing the fields. This usually involves clearing the land of any existing vegetation and plowing the soil to create a suitable seedbed for the rice. Villagers often use oxen or water buffalo to pull the plow through the fields. The plowing process also helps to aerate the soil and remove any weeds that may compete with the rice plants for nutrients. Once the fields have been plowed, they are flooded with water. This serves two purposes. First, it helps to soften the soil, making it easier to plant the rice seeds. Second, it provides a suitable environment for the rice plants to grow in. Rice plants require a lot of water, and flooding the fields helps to maintain a consistent level of moisture. Planting the rice. After the fields have been flooded, it is time to plant the rice. Villagers typically do this by hand, using a traditional method called transplanting. Transplanting involves planting young rice seedlings that have been grown in a separate nursery field. These seedlings are carefully pulled from the nursery field and transplanted into the flooded fields by hand. This process requires a lot of labor, as each seedling must be planted individually. However, it is an effective way to ensure that the rice plants are evenly spaced and have enough room to grow. Transplanting also helps to reduce the risk of weeds and pests, as the seedlings are planted in rows and can be easily managed. Growing the rice. Once the rice plants have been transplanted, they require careful management to ensure that they grow properly. Villagers will typically spend a lot of time in the fields, tending to the rice plants and ensuring that they have everything they need to grow. One of the most important aspects of growing rice is maintaining the proper level of water in the fields. Rice plants require a lot of water, but too much can be detrimental to their growth. Villagers will carefully monitor the water levels and adjust them as needed to ensure that the rice plants are getting the right amount of water. Another important aspect of growing rice is controlling weeds and pests. Villagers will often use traditional methods to manage these issues, such as manually pulling weeds or using natural predators to control pests. Chemical pesticides and herbicides are not typically used in traditional village farming practices, as they can be expensive and harmful to the environment. Harvesting the rice. After several months of growth, the rice plants will be ready for harvest. Villagers typically do this by hand, using sickles or other sharp tools to cut the rice stalks. The harvested rice is then collected and taken to a nearby threshing area, where it will be processed to remove the grains from the stalks. Processing the rice. Once the rice has been harvested, it must be processed to remove the grains from the stalks. Villagers typically do this using traditional methods, such as pounding the rice with a mortar and pestle or using a traditional rice mill. The process of milling rice involves removing the outer husk from the rice grains to reveal the edible kernel inside. This can be done manually, using a mortar and pestle or a hand-cranked mill.